Hello and welcome to this 30-minute bite-sized session on tactics for teamwork. Even the very best of teams can struggle and face hurdles that hinder their progress. In this session, we're going to look at what makes a high-performing team. We're also going to examine the common and dangerous pitfalls that many individuals fall prey to, otherwise known as Patrick Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions of a team. As part of this session, you will also gain a better understanding of how high-performing teams act, think, and behave. We will also understand the importance of followership and how it can often precede becoming a great leader. And to finish, I will share some top tips for effective teamwork. So what makes a high-performing team? First, let's take a moment to think about the definition of a team. Kozlowski and Ilgin's 2006 definition says a team comprises of 2 or more individuals who share a common goal to perform organisationally relevant tasks. Members have different roles and responsibilities and are interdependent in terms of workflows, goals, and outcomes. In order for a team to be highly effective and to maximise its performance, there are certain conditions that should be in place. Firstly, a team requires a meaningful mission or a task that needs to be completed. I'm sure you can already think of many examples where you've had to work as part of a team to complete an assignment at university. This meaningful task contributes not only to your academic studies, but to your overall grade that you achieve at university that year. Crucial to making things work is ensuring that you have the right people in your team. In the case of organisations, this mostly comes down to them recruiting people with the right skills, knowledge, talent, and culture fit, and finding a balance of those skills and knowledge across the team members that are in that team. Then there's the need for necessary resources. That could be time, training, equipment, access to information, or just what simply needs to be done. And lastly, a nurturing and empowering environment. This is about having guidance and support from your leader and the overall team demonstrating a supportive culture to one another. Sounds easy, right? Well, in a nutshell, these are the building blocks that are required to make a high-performing team. But all too often, teams fall into common traps that hinder their progress. So what really happens when teamwork goes wrong? We have probably all been in situations where a team hasn't worked as well as it should. Patrick Lencioni wrote a bestseller popular business fable entitled The 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. In this fable, it explored work team dynamics and offered solutions to help teams perform better. If you have the time, I really would encourage you to read this very short and helpful book. The 5 dysfunctions are as follows: trust, conflict, commitment, accountability, and results. I'm going to take each one of the dysfunctions in turn and explain to you why they can cause serious problems when working in a team. So let's start by talking about trust within teams. Teams without trust tend to have individuals that demonstrate the following types of behaviours. Team members can conceal their weaknesses and mistakes. They can also hesitate to ask for help or provide constructive feedback. They can also fail to recognise and tap into one another's skills and experiences. And they waste time and energy managing their behaviours for effect. Lastly, they can dread meetings and find reasons to avoid spending time together. On the other hand, trusting teams will have positive and a trusting team culture. They will admit their weaknesses and mistakes to one another. Each other will ask for help. They will take risks in offering feedback and assistance. Team members will appreciate and tap into each other's experiences and skills. They will also focus their time and energy on the important issues that need discussing. And they will look forward to meetings and opportunities to work together as a group. So a very different experience for trusting teams compared to those that don't trust each other. But what do you do if you are currently working in a team that lacks trust? Well, trust isn't built overnight. It comes about from those shared experiences of working together and that increased understanding of unique attributes of team members. That trust can be accelerated, though, in the short term by using some simple tools. First one that I want to introduce you to is the personal histories exercise. In this exercise, you can simply go round a table or ask everyone in a meeting on Zoom to answer a short set of questions about themselves. Nothing too sensitive, but rather everyday things. Getting to know how team members, getting to know more about your team members. So it could be getting to know about their hobbies, whether they have siblings or where their hometown is or what their first job was. By getting to know more about each other on a personal basis, team members can begin to relate to each other more. This means they develop more empathy and understanding towards others and their life stories, and then those walls start to come down. So it's a really useful tool to use if your team doesn't have much trust. Another tool you can use is a team effectiveness exercise. And this is slightly more risky because it develops trust by essentially allowing every team member to identify the most important contribution made by each of their peers in the team, and also one area they must improve upon or eliminate to help the team. It can lead to team breakthroughs, but it is a more riskier way of building trust in the short term. And lastly, you can use personality and behavioural preference profiles. And these are another tool that you can use in order to build lasting trust within your team. You can use personality profiling tools such as Myers-Briggs type indicator to understand each other's personality types, and also to understand yourselves and how your behaviour and personality impacts within the workplace and specifically within that team. So there are 3 examples of some tools that you can use to help to develop trust in the short term within your teams. The next dysfunction is conflict. What kind of things might people do if they are comfortable engaging or actively avoiding instances of conflict? Well, people who fear conflict are likely to have very boring meetings. They will create environments as well where back-channel politics is rife. They can ignore controversial topics because they don't want to go into it in more detail if it's going to mean everyone's disagreeing. They can fail to tap into all perspectives of team members, and they can also waste time with interpersonal risk management. So have you ever been in a group where you have felt too hesitant to say what you really felt because you didn't want to upset someone in the team? Artificial harmony is the phrase that was coined to explain the process where a team works together to agree on a solution or matter when they personally don't believe it's the best decision for a team. This usually happens when people in the team fear a conflict and they don't want to say what their real opinions are. This can often lead to the destruction and undermining of teamwork, as individuals can then go behind the team's back to voice their true opinions and have side conversations to peers or their managers about how they really feel. So every team really does need some healthy, constructive conflict where individuals are allowed to be free and express their opinions without the need for personal attacks. So teams engaging in healthy conflict will often have lively and interesting meetings. They will extract and exploit the ideas of all team members. They will solve real problems quickly. They will minimize the politics, and they'll put critical topics on the table for discussion. So what can you do in your team to make healthy conflict more common and productive? Well, you can use a technique called real-time permission, where team members are openly encouraged to have healthy debate. It is important that team members are given permission to others who are that team members give permission to others who are challenging and debating in group discussions. When a team member looks uncomfortable at the level of discord in a discussion, remind them that they are actually doing what is necessary for the progress of the team. So this will then give team members the confidence to continue those discussions. So remind them that this conflict is healthy and good for the progress of the team. So that is real-time permission. So great tool to use, particularly if you are having problems with conflict. Next up is commitment. So what kind of things might people do if they are committed or uncommitted to other team members or the overall team? Individuals that fail to commit to their teams will be more likely to create ambiguity about team direction and priorities. They may breed back confidence and fear of failure. They'll revisit discussions and decisions again and again, and they'll encourage second guessing among team members. When a decision is made, you need to back the decision within the team. So individuals that commit to action as a team will demonstrate the following types of behaviours. They will create clarity around direction and priorities. They'll align the entire team around those common objectives. They'll learn from the mistakes that they've made within that team, and they'll move forward without hesitation. So when they commit to a decision, everyone in the team has committed. And they can also change direction without hesitation or guilt. So that those great teams will demonstrate complete commitment and buy-in to decisions from every team member, even those that voted against the decision. So how can you help to ensure that they are demonstrating commitment in their decisions within your team? Well, a simple and incredibly effective tool to use to agree on is clear deadlines for those decisions to be made by. So teams that suffer from this dysfunction of commitment can often be susceptible to ambiguity as to when decisions truly need to be agreed upon. Once a deadline is set, as a team, you can work together to honour that deadline. So think about implementing those when you are looking to commit to decisions. It will help you to get there a lot faster and for the team to progress. Next up is accountability. So what kind of behaviours will individuals in a team show if they have low team standards compared to high team standards? Well, those who demonstrate low team standards will create resentment among team members who have different standards of performance. They'll also encourage mediocrity, and team members might miss deadlines and key deliverables. And they could also place undue burdens on the team leaders as the sole source of discipline. Whereas those with high standards within the team will establish respect among team members. They will also identify potential problems quickly by questioning one another's approaches without hesitation. They'll also avoid excessive bureaucracy around performance management and corrective action. So those are the differences between those who have low team standards and those who have high team standards. So what can you do in your teams to ensure that you have accountability? Well, to make all team members accountable, you could share within a team what needs to be achieved, who needs to deliver what, and how everyone must behave in order to succeed. Keeping these agreements in the open will help every team member to know their personal responsibilities that contribute towards achieving team goals. Then we move on to the last dysfunction, which is results. The ultimate dysfunction of a team is a tendency of team members to care about things other than the collective results of the work that they are doing. Some team members may be more focused on status and ego, which will hinder the successes of the team. These team players seem to stagnate or fail to deliver. They rarely defeat their competitors. They lose achievement-oriented team members who aren't interested in working with people who are just focused on status and ego. And these types of people also encourage team members to focus only on their own careers and individual goals. And they could also be very easily distracted from the common purpose of the team. Whereas individuals that come together to focus on collective results, they retain engagement of the team throughout because you're working towards a shared goal. It minimizes that individualistic behavior because everyone's working together as part of, like, each person essentially kind of contributes towards completing the jigsaw puzzle. Everyone's got a piece that needs to come together to achieve the overall result that everyone is inspired to meet. Everyone will also enjoy those successes and share the failures together as well. So they're focused on collective results, essentially winning and losing as a team. And these teams as well, they'll also avoid distractions because they're so focused on what that end goal is. So what can you do in your teams to ensure that you are focusing on achieving the results? Well, one thing that you could do is make a public proclamation about your intended success. Teams that are willing to commit publicly to specific results are more likely to work with a passionate and even desperate desire to achieve those results. It might not work for you in every scenario, but if meeting collective goals is something that your team is struggling with, this can be a great tactic to use. Remember that simply saying we'll do our best when trying to achieve team goals simply isn't powerful and purposeful enough to spur team members on. Going back to the graphic of Lencioni's 5 dysfunctions, you'll also notice that this has been drawn as a pyramid and hierarchy. This is because if there isn't trust at the very core of the team, giving a strong foundation, then the other elements above are almost impossible to achieve. So to wrap up this section, I want to share practical advice for how you can make this theory useful the next time you are embarking on a significant piece of teamwork, whether that be in your personal life or in your professional life. Lencioni suggests that teams ask themselves these questions and discuss the answers. Bear these in mind and use it with your teams to work out your strengths and challenges and ultimately make yourselves as effective and high-performing as possible. So these questions are as follows. Do your team members openly and readily disclose their opinions? Are your team members compelling and productive? Do your team members sacrifice their own interests for the good of the team? And does your team come to decisions quickly and avoid getting bogged down by consensus? Many of us assume that leadership is a key trait or skill that organisations will be seeking from their new graduates when they're hired, and that can be the case at some firms. But a firm needs far more followers than it does leaders. This is obvious when you think about it. When you're in a new role in your early career, you are far more likely to be delegated to than to be the one delegating. Leadership skills are, of course, important, but we know that students and recent graduates can make themselves stand out by demonstrating that they are great followers in the first instance. This is a far more valuable trait when thinking about team working and project success, and absolutely one you should be pitching to employers. So let's move on to what qualities that we think make a good follower. A few traits of followership include good judgment, and this might be supporting your leader through constructive challenge or being able to spot things that others haven't. No one disputes that good judgment is critical to being a good leader, but it is also just as important for the follower. Show enough good judgment as a follower and you usually end up getting a shot at becoming the leader. Then you have work ethic. Good followers are good workers. They are diligent, motivated, committed, pay attention to the details and make an effort. Leaders have a responsibility to then create that environment that permits these qualities. And then we have discretion. A favourite saying in World War II was loose lips sink ships. Followers owe their enterprises and their leaders discretion. Talking about work matters inappropriately is at best unhelpful and most likely harmful. Bluntly, you cannot be a good follower and be indiscreet. Next up, we have loyalty, being loyal. Followers who are not loyal are inevitably a source of difficulty. They create problems between team members, they compromise the achievement of goals, and they waste everybody's time. They're a menace. Loyalty is not a synonym for a lapdog. Rather, it's the essence of a strong allegiance and commitment to what the organisation is trying to do. So followers should remember that their obligation is to the organisation, not a given leader at a given point of time. And lastly, we have ego management. Good followers have their egos under control. They are team players in the fullest sense. They have good interpersonal skills, and success for good followers relates to performance and goal achievement, not personal recognition and self-promotion. If it sounds too good to be true, it often is. So that takes us to our final top tips for effective team working. Tip 1 is to play to your individual strengths. It isn't possible to be great at everything, and any good leader or effective worker is self-aware. Teamwork is about balance. Get to know what your strengths are in the workplace and exploit those wherever possible. Your weaknesses will be contained by other team members' strengths. When we play to our strengths, we are 6 times more likely to be engaged, to have productive relationships with others, and to take pride in our work. So it's really important that we do exploit the strengths that we have and the strengths of others. Also, try to avoid artificial harmony. One example where we see this a lot is when we run assessment centres for graduate recruiters. We've lost count how many times we've seen candidates on autopilot nodding and agreeing to team members saying, "Oh, that's a great idea," to every single idea and contribution mentioned in a group discussion. As much as assessors are looking for you to consider other perspectives in a discussion, they're also looking for you to be brave enough to politely and respectfully challenge and critique. By vacantly agreeing with things all the time, you are not showing that you're able to discuss critical topics and engage in healthy discussion. If you do this at an assessment centre, this leads to poor scores. But doing this in the workplace will also lead to mistakes being made and a potential rise in office politics. Then you need clear accountability. Teams work better when there is clarification and agreement on what needs to be done and who is responsible and accountable for the task. Accountability should be clear, formal, and communicated throughout the whole team so everybody knows who is responsible for what tasks. Together, you will be able to see how each team member is working towards your shared goal. And therefore, everyone is accountable towards making sure their puzzle piece helps to complete the overall jigsaw puzzle. You also need an honest and open environment. Team members should be able to openly and honestly share their opinions and justifications. Being honest will help to create a stimulating, collaborative and open environment. One thing you should be aware of is reserving judgment. Be aware of your tone when discussing critical topics in your team. Team members won't respond well if they feel like they're going to be shot down every time they express a viewpoint. Be respectful, polite, and challenge with reason. Don't display a negative attitude or outburst. And next up, win and lose as a team. The beauty of working within a team is that it's always more motivating to be part of something bigger than something singular. Decisions need to be taken as a team, and there will be times when you don't agree with decisions that have been made. But once a decision is final, you need to jump on board and support that idea. Teams both win and lose. If an idea you didn't initially support doesn't work, you shouldn't be criticising and pointing the finger. By sharing in the failures as much as we share within the success, you will be so much more balanced as a team. So win and lose as a team. So there you have it. Tactics for teamwork. I'll leave you with this quote by author and inspirational speaker Simon Sinek. A team is not a group of people that work together. A team is a group of people that trust each other. Thank you very much for watching.